Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I'm going to talk first about the project that you are so wonderfully and generously supporting, which is very, very important, and that's at the Dover Air Base. As you can see, health benefits and the built environment are becoming a very, very important subject and topic for designers and healthcare providers alike. We've all sat in waiting rooms at hospitals and doctors' offices and found them to be quite grim. There's usually a TV blaring in the background, and there's no sense of privacy. And these kinds of spaces are very ill-equipped to deal with the kinds of problems that people are facing when they're in those kinds of circumstances. And studies have been done that clearly indicate that contact with sunlight, contact with the green landscape or green contact of any kind, and water and nature has an enormous benefit. And also the opportunity to get up and walk around and have a little exercise in those circumstances brings enormous benefit too. So that people who experience emotions like being anxious or sad, angry, worried, tired, and people who are actually in pain, when they do studies and have people waiting, for example, parents who take a child to the hospital to be treated, particularly if it's a very serious illness, it's incredibly important that they have places where they can come in contact with something other than the traditional waiting room like you see, something like a garden. And so I think that's the thinking behind what you're all doing at the Dover Air Base, and it's very, very important. This is the Center for the Families of the Fallen, which is just, I guess, a year, not even quite a year old, or just a year old. And inside, it's very well done with a very kind of a warm living room, family kind of a feeling. But as you can see, the outside is quite brutal. And there are times when people need to go outside and get out of the space, and there's nowhere for them to go. And when they do step outside, they're right on the edge of a parking lot. And it's very important in environments like this, particularly when people are grieving, that they have a place where they can go and they can get a sense of intimacy, a sense that they're not being seen or on display, and they can have an introspective moment. And so the idea was to take this area behind Alice here, where the snow's piled up, and turn it into a garden. And that garden needs to have a couple of things. It needs to have a wall around it to create privacy and intimacy, and it needs to have green plantings in it that have a seasonal interest. It also needs to have water in it, and sometimes just running water and the sound of water is enormously important. We did a garden for the Christiana Care Graham Cancer Center, and we put water in that with a good sound, and sound you could get from a distance, because when people are grieving, people are crying, they don't want people to overhear them. So it's important to have this white noise and this sense that when you're out there, you can have these emotions, it's okay to have these emotions, and there's some privacy associated with it. The site has a little bit going for it. There's a crepe myrtle there that's rather mature. It's been kind of butchered over the years in great military fashion, I would say. And that's one tree that the colonel who commands the post, it's the only thing he said he was interested in. So we call that the Colonel Myrtle. So we're designing the garden around that. And it's a lovely tree. It just needs to be pruned heavily and encouraged to be a tree, not a dense shrub. So here's the plan, and I think many of you have seen it. To the far right is the main entrance, and that's where everyone comes in and out of the building. And then to the left, along that building facade, you see two double doors that open. And they will open into the garden. There's a wall that comes out near the main entrance and zigzags around. And that encloses the garden. And it's very important to have that garden enclosed so that people who are in the parking lot or driving by or press with cameras or anything else can't come up and invade this space. And then within the garden space, we have designed it so that there's a suggestion of two spaces. To the right, there's out the first door, the door to the right, there's a much smaller space with furniture. Those squares and rectangles represent chairs and couches. And that's a fairly small, intimate space. And then there are two trees which pinch that or suggest a separation. And then the larger space on the left, which has a water element shown as a circle at this point, large rocks in the pavement and in the plantings, beds themselves, and then rich plantings around. And that's going to give you a much greater sense of being connected with nature. And here you are above the parking lot outside looking down in. Those white blobs represent the rocks that you will see. You can see the door. And you can see the plantings around a paved area. And the paved area goes in and out and creates these little nooks, if you will, where we're going to set benches. So you do have a sense of privacy when you sit in there. So the idea is that more than one or two or three people can sit in there and still not feel like they're on display, because it's very important. And the garden is on the northeast side of the building, so it should be nice and cool for most of the time. The trees will provide shade, and it'll be a nice environment where we can get a lot of plants to grow and rich textures and colors throughout the year. And then the outside with the wall will be planted as well with vines, flowering vines, and then there's a nice little planter area where we can put a sizable tree to bring that scale in the walls, bring the building and the walls down into scale. So I have to thank you for your generous support, and it's what a wonderful project is to be done, and the fact that you're all behind it. I think, I know the Armed Services, they're just thrilled about it and can't wait to have it done. So it's a fabulous project, and I feel very honored to be a part of it, so I thank you.